We've got a build in-house right now that we're working on that's just so cool. We wanted to share it and show everybody. So it's a pretty neat one. We got it brought into us all the way from California, shipped it up here. It was in a little bit of a sorry state and kind of we're going through it. So the subframe behind me is what's going in it. This car is going to have a D16 like we did in some previous builds. So it is the McGee subframe. We really like this subframe. It's cool because it fits in the front end of the Mini without cutting too much. You just have to cut out the inner wings. You don't have to cut any of the firewall. It fits left-hand drive, right-hand drive, and it uses all of the factory Mini suspension. So you can see it right here. You can get the cones. We've got factory upper control arms, factory lower control arms. Steering geometry stays the same. Essentially, it drives exactly like a Mini, but you get a Honda power plant. This subframe is also chromoly tubing, and all said and done, it actually weighs less with the subframe and the engine than the factory Mini engine and subframe. So you lose weight, you gain a whole bunch of power, and it makes it way more drivable. You get a 5th gear. So as you can see, we've already started to assemble some stuff. We got the subframe pretty much put together, minus the engine, and we've done a fair amount of work on the actual truck itself. So let's go over there and do a little bit of a walkthrough to show you where we're at right now.
Peace, be still, my darling. All is well, my darling.
So as you can see, we've got the truck here. We've got it completely torn apart. First thing we did is remove the subframe, remove the engine, take out all the wiring, all the brakes, all the interior, get it down to essentially a bare shell. And then for the D-Series swap, you do have to cut the inner wings out. So that's been done. We cut it really tight and it almost looks factory. And then wire wheeled all the engine bay here. It had like old crusty paint and undercoating and stuff. Got that all down, recoated it with new fresh stuff, and then kind of started from there. So I guess we'll kind of start at the front, work our way back, show you where we're at. And then this build, as it continues, we're gonna have updates. We'll go along and film those and show you kind of as the build progresses. So obviously it's a pickup truck. This is actually, I believe, a converted van that's been turned into a pickup truck a long time ago. And the intended use is gonna be as a semi-daily driver. He wants to actually use this as a car, hence the Honda swap. So with the Honda engine, it's a D16. It's a D16 Y8. With a D15B2 transmission. So that is the longest gear ratio transmission and the most powerful D-Series engine. So it's a VTEC engine. It's going to be completely rebuilt, but to more factory specs. So it'll be as if it just rolled off the assembly line. And then the transmission, being the long geared, will give it great highway capabilities. So it's going to be a car meant for the use on the road and to be comfortable for highway use and long travels. So it's kind of neat to build a car like that. It is also going to have air conditioning, and with the D-Series swap, because it is bigger, pretty hard to fit the compressor in there. So we've done some kind of interesting stuff, and I'll show you that later. But starting at the front, we've got some new bright work on here. He wanted some fog lights, so we've got the brackets mounted up for that. This is all pretty factory stuff. We are running our new LED projector lights here, available on csamotor.com. Check them out. So these are going to be the first demo of this. It looks classic, a little bit more modern, kind of like the rest of the car. And then working our way into the interior, or the engine bay here, you can see the startings of some of the work we're doing. So we've got new steering rack. Pretty much any time that the engine is pulled on a car, replace a steering rack. It's so much easier to do. They're not very expensive, and it just makes sure that you've got nice tight steering. We've done all of our fuel lines here. We've got our brake line started. It is going to be a single line master using our favorite Nycop brake line. Factory T's here going down. So these will go down to the front subframe. That will be bolted in afterwards, but it's already been all mocked up and everything. We've got our fuel line here. and then just started to kind of clean up in the engine bay here. You can see this fuse box here. This is the startings of the electrical system. We are doing away entirely with the factory Lucas wiring system, and I'm going to build one ground up for this car. It just makes it so much easier, and as you can see, we actually have multiple fuses that will all be properly sized for the respective components, and just makes it a lot more modern. Don't have to deal with any of the Lucas wiring headaches. So other than that, I mean, the exterior of the truck is going to remain pretty classic looking. We've got kind of new badges and new bright work going on. We're going to have some new chrome fillets that go along here. It is a Mark I, so obviously it's got the external hinges. If you're coming along this way, you can see the interior. We've just kind of started to go through. So we stripped out the interior completely so far. We've got some sound deadening starting to go in. And as you can see, it had this nice backing piece here with some speakers. There's a sub underneath there. That's all going to be retained. We've got a vintage air conditioning unit. This actually was in the car, so we are going to reuse that. It is going to have a central mounted gauge with new gauges in it. We'll show you those as they come along, but it'll look pretty trick. It's going to have things like it's got a reverse camera, obviously air conditioning sound system and whatnot. We've got, you can see right here, we've got the Honda P28 computer mounted up. That's going to be hidden as well under the carpets. So we have full capabilities to tune this engine, so it is going to be tuned. Should make really good power and have a lot of drivability. And then let's work kind of our way along the back here. So obviously this is pretty cool. We actually built this. He wanted kind of that old school American truck, pickup truck, farm truck kind of vibe. So we've got, this is all made of steel. It's got LED lighting up top here and the wood planks on the side. Gives it that kind of old school look, and this is pretty fun to make. And then for kind of extra cool factor, we wanted to have the fuel tank in the bed of the truck, kind of like those old school hot rods that have like a beer keg or whatnot. So coming around the back, you can see we have got our fuel cell mounted here. So this is pretty cool. We took out the tank from the back to make room for the AC that you'll see later. And now we've got our fuel cell mounted here. This comes as just a hot rod pickup tank with a drain on the bottom. But because we are running fuel injection, we needed to modify it. So TIG welded a box on top here, and then custom fabricated a mount here. And this holds a factory Honda D16 fuel pump, as well as the fuel sender here. And then there's the feed and the return line that go down, feed underneath the car. And then that way we get proper fuel pressure and the proper pump and flow capabilities that we need for a swap like this, while retaining the kind of classic look. And if I open up here, you can see the actual truck bed. He also wanted a mount for a jack, so built up this thing here. Mount slots in here, is held, the little two arms, and then a spare tire as well with the wheel. You can see that we've got mini light wheels that we have sandblasted and refinished. These are powder coated, kind of a bronze, I think really matches the look of the car. And that's in there, so you got this kind of pre-runnery style truck bed. You can also see kind of onto the back side there, we've mounted the battery in the back. And that piece on the far right corner there is our electric air conditioning compressor. This is pretty cool with, no pun intended, with the technology now. Electric AC has come a long way, and this is from a company out of Australia, and it's used mostly for semi-trucks that do the long haul driving in Australia, and there's been really good reviews and reports on this electric AC compressor, so we decided to give it a shot. So the AC system, besides the actual kind of blower that's up at the front, is entirely contained within the bed of the truck here. So you don't need to run anything off the engine, keeps the engine bay really clean, and it's all tucked back here. So that's been a kind of a cool thing that we're trying out. We'll track our progress as we go along with this, but from all reports it should work really well, so excited to do that. One last little cool thing to talk about here is because we've got the fuel tank in the back, you want an easy way of filling it up. You don't want to be reaching over here, so actually made a special hinged compartment here, so the wood slats actually open up like this. You can reach in, fill up the tank, and there's a little magnetic catch, so once it closes, it stays shut like that. So now let's get on the lift, put it in the air, and I'll show you the rest of the AC system and a little bit about the suspension that we're using for this truck. One other thing before we get into the rest of the build is I wanted to do a quick shout out to Sam at Creative Covers. He sent us this cover for a classic Mini, and it's awesome. We've been using it at the shop here. It's waterproof, it fits really tight. It's kind of a great material, great quality. We're gonna post his link below. It's an eBay store. It only ships to the UK, so if you're a UK viewer, make sure to check these out. Really awesome, and thank you again. All right, so we're under the truck right now, and you can get a little bit better view of how the air conditioning system works. So we do have the compressor up at the top, kind of right above here, and then it feeds down through a bulkhead fitting into the condenser, which is right here, and it's mounted up underneath the truck bed here. It's got a big electric fan on the bottom. It takes air, blows it out the back. And we've also got the dryer here that also runs then forward into a bulkhead fitting into the interior. Those lines then run forward to the blower evaporator, and it gets cycled right back. So it's really tidy with a truck like this. Makes it pretty easy because there's a lot of room under here. Normally it's a fuel tank here, but we've taken that out to give us some leeway for routing lines and whatnot. So we do have all the AC pretty much underneath here. While we're underneath, I can kind of show you a few other things. So we are running mini fins on the back, got all new brake lines. We are running the Molten Smoother Ride cones and arms and trumpets, I mean, so that we're gonna have, because it is a truck, we want it to have a pretty decent ride height. It's also gonna be used on the road, and then because it's gonna be daily driven, we are gonna have this setup because it's gonna be the most comfortable. So it should handle great and be totally usable. Anything else to take a look? There's the fuel system here. We just got started, so you can see from the pump it runs down. We've got -6 braided lines that come through here. It's the fuel filter, then runs through 5/16 hardline all the way to the front with a 1/4 inch hardline return back up to the top. Yeah, that's about it from the underside. You can see again our NICOP lines, and we're still kind of working on it right now. This is just kind of the starting stages, but it's going to be a pretty cool setup when it's all done. All right, so that's it for the first episode of our pickup truck build. Make sure to hit the bell notification so that you can get updated when we have future episodes coming out, because like I said earlier, we are going to be documenting this process, and we'll show you kind of on a technical breakdown of exactly how it all comes together, so it'll be pretty cool. And also check out our website, stevesonmotorco.com. We'll have the link below. We got a lot of cool parts for minis. We got a lot of cool shirts and swag, and we're always updating some stuff. We've got some new products on there now. Make sure to check that out. And as always, stay tuned, and thank you for watching.